What is up, podcast peeps? It is Maisie,
Claire,
and also
Pastor Colton.
yes. Okay, the setup is a little different. And also we're trying to add some decor to the wall over there. So if any suggestions are on your dome, let us know and we'll put them on up there. But we're just gonna have a good old time today and just talk. So stay with us and listen up. Okay, so first question we got. If you were to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Describe myself in one word?
Yeah,
Probably just laid back, I guess. I don't get like worked up super easy, so I hate to use like the chill guy meme, but I feel like for the most part,
Is that 2 words? Laid back?
chill. Just
Chill.
one word.
Okay.
he's
There
the
is,
ultimate
I'll
chill
take
I think
guy.
I was talking to
Yeah.
someone because I don't know you that well. They were like, he's really like nonchalant.
There you go.
Nonchalant.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
take it. I'll
okay.
take
Nonchalant
that. Yeah,
Jeffrey?
yeah, I'll take it.
Do you guys have your word? I don't know.
I feel like I'm really random. I don't know. Here, any other suggestions?
I would say
Take
you're
it, I'll
beautiful.
take it.
You're really talented.
Okay.
Ooh, what a word.
Because wait, can you play piano,
Mhm.
guitar, sing?
All of them.
Oh, and are you in band too?
Not
You
anymore.
were.
Quit.
It's okay. You're
I
so
played the French horn when I was in band.
Really?
Mhm.
What is the
Yep.
French horn?
Do you like it?
Yeah, no, I didn't. As soon as I saw my friends playing like dodgeball and wiffle ball and PE,
You were done. So.
I was done. So I
Check
went
it out.
straight back.
Okay, wait. What was your word, Claire?
I don't know. We have to do this in leadership all the time, and I'm like, kind, but I don't like talking to myself.
Humble.
Perfect.
You said
Beautiful.
I do feel like you're very humble though.
Oh, thank you.
You just like to yourself, but like not really. But like good.
I'll take
You know, yeah.
I think there's me. I feel like I'm all over the place, but that's not one word.
I'd say you're social or outgoing.
Outgoing. I'll take outgoing.
Outgoing.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. Okay, now we're just gonna get to know Colton because some people listening might not know you
Yeah,
as well as
Let's
others.
do it.
Okay,
Okay.
so who are you? Who's Colton?
Who am I?
Yeah.
I am the youth pastor at AY. Loving every second of it. I am in my mid-30s, and we will just leave it at that age. 3 kids, Jackson, Finley, and Aspen. Incredible wife, Megan. That we kind of get to do all the youth stuff together, which is a lot of fun. I grew up at the assembly. My parents joined the team when I was 9. And
wow.
so, yeah, all the way from, I can remember my very first Sunday at the assembly. I can remember like very vividly. And we had a family, they took us to a Chinese buffet afterwards called the China Star. And it was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. So it is still a Chinese buffet, but it's called something different now. Like,
Is it the Shanghai Avenue?
I think
That's
it is.
the one.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, is that
What?
it? Shanghai Avenue. We actually, like, just a couple months ago, we took our kids. They'd never been to a Chinese buffet before, and we took them, and they thought it was like the greatest place on earth.
I mean,
They
it's
thought it was so
unlimited
awesome.
food.
Panda's
Yeah.
not a buffet.
Yeah,
Oh wait, because you can't go back for a second.
right.
I wish.
Wait,
Oh
where?
my gosh.
Panda.
Panda Express a buffet. Like
That'd be
ultimate
nice.
I
idea.
could be eating all the noodles. Noodles are so
That'd be
good.
no more.
Yeah, I usually make myself sick at buffets, but they're just so
Mhm.
good, you know.
I feel like it's worth it though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, get your money's worth.
that's right.
Unlimited fortune cookies. You'd be so fortunate. Bro, you have.
You're gonna have every fortune ever.
Sorry, bro. it's just-
Yeah, see, I want my fortune cookies to be replaced with crab rangoon.
Oh.
Crab.
Wait, what's
Yes,
that?
crab
Crab
rangoon,
rangoon,
like a
it's
cream
like-
cheese rangoon.
Oh my gosh, those are
Yes.
the best
Yeah,
ones
yeah.
ever.
Oh,
Comfort
man.
food for me.
Those are
Yes.
so good.
And when you get like a lot of it in there and it's just like
Yep.
Mm.
I love it.
Well, it's like you don't even taste the
Yeah.
crab. It's just
If
like
you've
cream
had
cheese.
a rangoon,
It's
like a
good.
cream cheese
Yeah,
rangoon,
those are so good.
Yeah,
There's
dude,
crab
that's
in
it.
that's
every
that's
time.
And then you dip it in the sauce.
Mhm.
oh the sweet and sour.
Oh, so
That's it.
good.
God. We got
Sorry, I didn't mean to send this on like a crab
No,
rangoon tangent.
no.
But
About you.
yeah, they're very good, very good. About me, I love crab rangoon. One of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing youth ministry for a long time. I felt called to be a youth pastor actually at a spring retreat whenever I was in middle school. I knew that I wanted to be in ministry. Wasn't sure what that exactly looked like, but just through the adventure of chasing after what God was calling me to do, realized that it was youth ministry. And I've always since then wanted to do youth ministry. There's not been like a season where I would hope that youth ministry would lead me into being a lead pastor or anything like that. And for me, it's what I enjoy doing the most, and I've been doing it for a youth ministry now for 11 years, and so I
Wow.
love it. I love it.
That kind of reminds me of one of my questions.
Okay.
How was your first spring retreat as a leader or a pastor compared to at Impact?
When I was a
Yeah,
student,
yeah.
the word I kept using the whole time at retreat, it just felt so surreal because I remember being a student and playing in the games and all the way from middle school. Like I could remember, because I can remember all the stages too when I was kind of like the little man on campus as like a sixth grader, barely surviving during the games, all the way through being a senior and kind of being like a student leader in a way, and then and until now where I get to do it as the youth pastor is, I mean, one of the coolest things ever. And so just the last night when we were all celebrating, that which team won, and we're thanking the leaders and we're going through all of that and looking across the room and just telling Megan, like, because typically I'm leaned in to try to figure out, okay, how's everything going? Is it going perfect? Is it going to plan? But I had to kind of like remove myself out of that for a minute. And I just told her, I was like, I just need to take this in for a second and just realize what an incredible moment this really is and such a cool opportunity. But yeah, just so surreal to get to be in a totally different seat now. Is awesome. It was really, really cool.
Speaking of like different seat, how has your life changed since being a youth pastor here?
Since being a youth pastor here, I think it's tough because I wouldn't say that it's not been necessarily like life changing in a way that it like everything's changed for me, but there's been so much fulfillment that's been added to my life through getting to do it. Um, just having the opportunity to come back to the church that I grew up in has been really fulfilling because I know the potential for what God can do in this place because I know what he's done in my life, what he did in Megan's life, and so many people that we still know that we're friends with even to this day, and people that I can look back at that are in full-time ministry and all of this other stuff, or even just leaders in their workplace because of what God instilled in them at the assembly. It's cool to get to be a part of that, and so there's a lot of fulfillment, to get to look at that and just see where my life is now is awesome. It's just really, really cool to be able to sit back and take all that in.
So
Yeah.
good.
Can I was gonna say, can you imagine telling your middle school self, like, yeah, you're gonna be the pastor of this youth right
It would
here?
be very hard to believe for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
very hard to believe because I had like even when I was that age, like speaking in front of people or anything like that would be so stressful. I mean, I remember I had, been obedient to something God wanted me to do at school, and I told my youth pastor about it, and he was like, "That's so awesome. Will you get up during service tonight and tell everybody?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't want to do it. Never mind. I'm never telling you anything again." I was like, I was so scared. But it just honestly, it's the definition of how the Holy Spirit can use us. Is there's just things that I would have never been able to do that the Holy Spirit has equipped me to be able to do now that I would have been way too terrified to do. We actually met at it was called Impact whenever I was a student, but we met at AY. Um, my earliest memory of her is she and I were both on the same mission trip to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And I can remember her being on the mission trip and talking about what God had been doing in her life, and like her testimony of how God had used her and radically changed her. And that story always stuck with me. And we were in the same friend group, but never dated or anything like that. And it wasn't like this intentional thing of like, we're not dating till we graduate. It just never laid itself out that way. And then the summer after we graduated, we just became I'm just best friends. I can remember like we would text each other a lot. Texting was relatively new at that time too. It wasn't like a common thing, and so we would text each other a lot. And I remember her saying, "Hey, I'm actually gonna I'm taking a break. Like I'm fasting from my phone and texting for the next 3 days." And I was bummed because I like I guess excited for you that God's gonna do something great, but I'm bummed because we've been like texting and talking a lot. And then like 3 days later, she's like, "Hey, I'm back," and it was like such a relief that I could like text her again. Um, and it just through all of that, we were just like really really good friends. And so after we graduated, we went through that whole summer together, and then and I would like to say that I was the brave one, but Megan was the brave one because I didn't want to like ruin what we had, even though I knew I really liked her. And she like hit me up. She was like, "Hey, what do you think about taking this thing like to a different level?" And I thought that was awesome. So yeah, but yeah, we met at church. We weren't necessarily like high school sweethearts, but what was really cool is that there was so much legwork that was done through like the dating like period because we were just friends for years before all of that.
Um,
Yeah.
with like the texting, I'm gonna like piggyback off of that. What are your opinions about like phones and like social media in this generation and the youth?
Yeah, I think they're incredibly important. I think having a phone is important. I think there's a lot of like safety and social aspects that can come with that. Like like Jackson will have a phone as he gets older. My kids will have a phone, and part of it is because I want to be able to like track where they are. Like, so there's a lot of like safety things that come with that. Um, but then the social aspect as well, especially with social media. I think that um, it's like anything else. There are good and bad things to almost anything that we can do, right? And so I think with social media, just learning how to gauge when it's healthy for you and when it's not healthy for you. I know that like there was a year where I deleted all social media off of my phone. And it wasn't because it was this like big stumbling block or anything like that. I just didn't like the pressure of feeling like I needed to post all the time or how to post the right thing, and keeping up with my friends here or my friend, and I just needed kind of like to not, I guess, for a little bit. And there was a lot of it was very freeing in that, that I didn't know I didn't need it. And so when I put it back on my phone, it's made it so much easier because I'm not just like constantly needing to be on Instagram or constantly needing to check it. And one thing that I did that really helped me is I used to have all my push notifications turned on. So when I would post something, I would know like every time somebody liked it or, they looked at it or whatever it was. Um, and I got the advice to turn off all notifications for any kind of social media. So I just turned them all off. And then I realized that I would get to where I could post something and not check it for hours. And it wasn't like it was this intentional thing. I just didn't think about it. I could post it and just not think about it again. And it would became like a habit to where it became where social media was enjoyable for me. It didn't feel like I was constantly in a state of comparison, but I could keep up with my friends. I could be encouraged by what other people were doing. And so I think that aspect is really important, like knowing when it's healthy for you and when it's not healthy for you. Um, and then also knowing who you represent when you're on social media, being very careful about what we post and how we post. I 100% believe that we should be authentic to ourself when we post, that we shouldn't like always post highlights. That's why I kind of love the trend of people posting like a monthly recap. Like there's some great pictures, like people make sure that I got a couple good pictures of myself in there, but there's also just like random junk that's in there. It's like just this is what the last month looked like. And so I think being authentic, but also being a good representation of Christ while we're on there too is really really big. But yeah, I think that social media it's another incredible and powerful tool for us to use. Just make sure that we use it the right way. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like, say I go do a Bible study, LRNA, and like I post about it. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
I think it's like good or encouraging, or
yeah, or do you think it's like,
Like
cause like the
showy.
verses like do like if you're like spending time with God, like do it in secret and like don't like
Mm.
make it big. Like, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I mean, if you're at Lauren A doing it, you're not really keeping it a
Yeah.
secret.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that there's a difference. I think that there's a way where when you're doing a Bible study with your friends in public, I think it could be encouraging to other people to realize, hey, you know what? I could do that too. I don't have to be so secretive about it, but I do think that there's a time and a place where your relationship with Jesus could be private, like that praying in secret, like praying in private, especially whenever you're fasting. I don't think it doesn't have to be like this big announcement to everybody like, hey, I'm fasting, I'm not eating this or this or this. But then it really, you just like fast and do what the Lord wants you to do, pray about what the things that you need to pray about, and let God work in that. So I think that there's a little bit of both. But I think like if you're doing a Bible study with your friends at Lorne, I think it's a great way for you to tell your story about what God's doing in your life. I have a friend of mine that he posts like all the stuff that he does throughout his day. Like it's like I get like a vlog throughout his day of like everything that he's doing, whether it's him hanging out with his friends or he's hanging out with another youth pastor or whatever it is, and it's encouraging because I'm like, man, yeah, that's awesome that he does that.
Well, I have something, but yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
that's good.
so you said like you said something and it was exactly what Jonathan said. I'm literally going blank. Like what you just said something. And I'll say Jonathan said the same thing that you just said. What was it? What'd you just say?
Jonathan Brozozog?
Yes, the guy that just came here.
The Zog?
Yeah,
I don't know. I heard the message too, but I don't
I
know.
think it was about like, oh, I know exactly what it was. About how like you said something should be kept secret. And that's what he talked about. He was like,
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and like God wants to tell you some stuff and you don't need to tell everyone about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
how he told just the 12 disciples, like, hey, I rose from the dead, whatever. Let's keep it on the DL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
okay.
used to be so confused by that because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so am I supposed to tell people about my
Yeah.
relationship with Jesus or not?
Yeah.
And so I used to wrestle with that a lot. And I think as you just grow in your faith and your like spiritual maturity and understanding like what God is trying to reveal to you in different seasons, it's just like that. Because I used to like the whole Mount of Transfiguration like moment where Jesus is like, when we go down from here, let's not tell anybody about this. And it's because other people wouldn't understand. That it would freak them out. They wouldn't have the right context for it. And how could the disciples even begin to describe it in a way that people could understand what they saw without sounding crazy? You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes there's stuff that God is doing inside of us personally that's just for us. That it may not even make sense for somebody else. But I do believe, and in the same way that passage says, let's not talk about this until I'm raised from the dead. There's certain things that Jesus is going to do in your life that he's saying, hey, let's not talk about this until a later date. There's still more that I'm going to do through you, and I'm going to help you get to a place where you can explain and express what I did inside of you, and you'll be in a healthy place to be able to talk about it transparently and clearly without it being too raw. You know what I mean? And so I think that's part of it.
Speaking of the guest speaker, Jonathan, he talked about like how siblings like have a big impact on your life
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
that's like the longest relationship you'll have. Are you close with your siblings?
Yeah, and there's been certain seasons where we are and certain seasons where we're not. I would say mm, I I've always been more of like the independent like one, and but like my brother Caleb is very good about like calling and checking to see, like how you doing, what are you doing, so I think having that relationship with your siblings is really really important. I think that having each other's back and being able to help each other is important. And that's not to say that it will always be easy or that relationship is easy. I think that sometimes there are seasons where it can be difficult, but God can work in and through that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any like advice if you aren't close with your siblings or you like have a lukewarm relationship with them? How do we like strengthen that relationship?
Yeah, I think that you kind of have to evaluate what would cause the relationship to have tension in the first place. Um, and then begin to just ask God to help reveal to you how there can be healing in that relationship. Um, And then also, I think you can be okay with that relationship getting to a certain point. You're like, hey, you know what? This is as close as we're gonna be, and I'm gonna be happy with that. I think some people they're like their siblings and they're almost so close that it's like unhealthy. You know what I mean? And so I think finding that balance of, you know what, I'm happy with my relationship with my siblings, and then I think that we're in a great place right now. But I think evaluating, okay, what is the tension? How do I navigate that? Is it something that I need to bring up? Is it something that I need to trust the Lord to do a work in? Is it something that we've already talked about and it didn't do any good? You know how that goes, and so just kind of trusting the Lord with that too. But I think there will be different seasons where it's easy and different seasons where it's a little bit harder. But just trusting that the Lord has a plan for all of that too. But then to be active when you feel like He's speaking to you to bring healing to the relationship too. Yeah.
One of like, was it your sister? I don't know her name. She went to Teen Challenge.
Yeah, Kelsey. Uh huh.
Isn't she like she's pretty open about that, right? Like
Mhm,
she
yeah,
talked about it.
yeah.
Like whenever like she was going through like that hard like rough spot in like her life where she didn't know like what like she fully believed in, like
Yeah.
how like all that, like how like as her brother, like how did you go through that? Like
Yeah.
not sure of like what was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was really hard. And I say that, I can't act like, oh, it was so hard for me. She was going through a lot, and we just we were prayerfully hoping that the Lord would just continue to do a work in her life. Um, and so my goal was just to pray for her as often as I could and to be there for her as often as she would allow me to be. And I can remember there was a time where um, we kind of had like a family member pass away, and she wanted to be around to be a part of the grieving process, um, and I had an opportunity to take her back to her apartment, and this had been like the first time I had really gotten to be with her, see her in over a year, um, and we had a great conversation talking all the way to her apartment, and then we just sat in my car and talked for a long time because she had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions. There was a lot in that, and I just tried my very best just to be real and not to be um, like this overly like hyper spiritual person. I just wanted her to see how like authentically I loved her and cared about her no matter what she was walking through or what she was dealing with. And I wanted that conversation to lead to a place where she knew that I would always be available if she needed something, no matter what she was going through or what she was walking through. Um, but yeah, it was difficult, but at the same time, God has obviously brought a lot of healing and restoration through that, and she's incredible and has an incredible story about what God's done in the midst of all of that. And so I'm crazy proud of her, and to be able to see like the growth of what God's done in her life and how He's using her now is really really cool. Yeah, yeah, I think that it's difficult, but in anyway, I think about if it was my kid, how hard that would be. At the same time, I would want to do everything I could to express to them in the same way that I did to my sister that I love them and I care about them, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to make myself available to be a part of that healing process. And the same with the prodigal son, that part where it says, and he saw him from a long ways off. I know a lot of times we use that story of Jesus sees you from a long ways off and he wants you to come home, but I also think about what that story is actually about, that there's a father that couldn't wait for his son to come home,
His arms were open. Like, he
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
ready. Like that.
Yeah,
Like really.
and I think I would be the same way, if it was
Yeah.
my kids. It would be so difficult, but at the same time, every day, I would be so excited for them to come home, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. That's a good question.
On the like train of that with the Jonathan Brazozog,
Yeah.
what do you want to take out of his seminar tonight?
I think the thing that he touched on quite a few times this morning is I just want to be the best possible influence I can be on my kids. Um, that speaking life into them, prophesying over them, encouraging them, and noticing the great things about them, and speaking into those things and pulling that out of them. Um, I want to be really really good at that, and I know that there's always different areas as a parent where we can grow, and I think that that's something that I just took away from his message this morning, that I just want to be like the best possible parent that I can be when it comes to loving on my kids and helping them realize how awesome they are and reaching and realizing the full potential that God has for them. So that's a big one for me, especially as he was talking this morning.
I enjoyed it, even though it wasn't like obviously I'm not an adult and I don't have kids, but like I enjoyed it. There were some things he said that like were just like really stuck out to me.
And I think it's good for us to hear it as kids because it's teaching us for the future, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
In that one
Yeah.
book, it was like you're raising parents or whatever. Like I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, one day
Yeah.
we're gonna be
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me feel bad for my parents. Like that sounds
I
like
know.
dumb,
Yeah.
but like it's their first time dealing with a Maisie that's 16 and like
Yeah.
crazy, you
Yeah.
know, all that stuff. So I need to like be gracious, you know.
That's good. That's good.
I know that because I go on Saturday and Sundays. I got two completely different things out of both nights.
That's cool.
Like Saturday, it was like all about my family and loving on my family, and then this morning it was like about me. And I was like, it kind of sounds selfish, but like I applied what he said to my life instead of my family's life.
No,
you
I get
know?
that because I went last night too, and it was kind of vice versa for me. But yeah, it was good. How like, you know, you said like mainly the same stuff, like certain things stuck out. But yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool.
was there ever like any other like? I know this is a lot about your family, but like any time there was like in your siblings' life or like anything that not only what's her name again, Kelsey,
Kelsey, yeah.
Kelsey, but like one of the other two. You have other two
Uh-huh.
other than.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like still
Yeah.
trying to make
Cassidy
sure.
and Caleb, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're like, they're like rough patches with like Cassidy and Caleb, like with your relationship with them ever. Like, have you always been close with them? Or
Yeah.
was it-
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I can think about like when we were kids.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
just
like,
sibling.
yeah, that stuff is always, and I think like even as adults, there's always like little things like that, but it's stuff that you kind of like, okay, I gotta, we're gonna move on, you know. But yeah, I think as kids there was always like moments where we would fight, or you know, we would like Caleb and I would wrestle and it would go too far, you know, it's like
Someone
stuff
gets
like
hurt
that.
from it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's always like those type of things.
I have a question. It is actually so random.
Okay.
But you said you, sorry, I don't know why I was thinking about this. You said you were in the car with Kelsey afterwards. Was it the green car?
No, it was
Aw.
not.
I was really like hoping it was the green car.
It was not the green
The
car.
green
No,
car.
we have had that thing for a very long time, but it wasn't that
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
for those of you guys who don't know, he has a gnarly green car.
Really?
Would probably love to show it to you sometime.
Yeah, we
Put a
we
picture
actually
up.
got that car whenever Megan and I were leaders at AY, like right after we first got married. And oh, dude, yeah, it's seen a lot. Yeah, it's seen a lot. And the students at that time named our car Fiona.
Oh, that's
Okay,
precious.
like Shrek.
Yeah, from
Fiona.
Shrek. Yeah.
Goldie.
Yeah.
Goldie calls it. What does she call it? What
The
does she
green
call it?
cube.
No, she calls it like the
The booger.
The booger.
moving
I've never been more offended. That's crazy. The booger.
booger. Okay. Also, did you know your dad killed a goose?
I did hear about that. Yeah.
What?
And here's the
He
deal, like
called
I
you-
would like a couple of people have been like, "Did you know your dad did that?" And it's just like I'm totally unfazed. Like, yeah, I can
He
see
just
it. Yeah.
grabbed a shovel. Bye bye goose, and then he just like picked it up and just threw it away. I was like, how did they dispose of that?
You know,
There's no
growing up
shot.
out in the country, it's just some crazy things happen. You got to
They
be
live
ready.
in. Do they still live in Verdigris?
Yeah.
And that's where you went to high school, right?
Yeah, Verdigris High School.
I know, like we're running low on time, but I have one more question.
Okay.
Whenever you were in high school, like what, like were there certain things that like were really hard for you? And we asked the question at AYM, but what was it? What is the most difficult thing? What was the first question? It was like,
when is it most difficult for you to
yeah,
live like Jesus?
was there like a moment in high school for you that was really difficult?
Yeah, for sure. Because my high school was 30 minutes away from where I went to church. I didn't go to church with anybody that I went to high school with. And I didn't go to high school with anybody that I went to church with. And so I could be the pastor's kid on Sundays and Wednesdays and be like the perfect Christian in that example. But then at school, I would be what I felt like my friends wanted me to be. and be that person on campus. And so I think that there came a time where I had to truly decide which version of myself was I going to live up to be. Was I going to be the person that kind of just made the easy choice and was a people pleaser, or was I going to be who God called me to be and live faithfully towards Him, even when it was difficult? And I can remember my senior year, just like I had a moment with God where it was really like that was like it was I came to like a crossroads of which pathway I was going to choose. And I thankfully chose that I'm going to live for Jesus no matter what. Like that's the choice I'm going to make. But it was really difficult when I was in high school, especially when I was at my school, because I could be whoever, I wanted to be without the pressure of, being a pastor's kid and being at the church and all of those things. But I realized that it's not really pressure. It's just an opportunity for me to live for Jesus and to honor Him. But I was looking at it in such an unhealthy way. And that was just reflective of my immaturity in my relationship with Jesus. And when that really came to be solidified, it made it so much easier for me to live for Jesus, because I just got to the point where I said, every decision that I make has to be based on what God wants me to do long term with my life. So I know that I'm supposed to be a pastor. So the decision I make now, is it going to help me get closer to being a pastor, or is it going to prolong my ability to be in that seat? And so I just began to really narrow those things down to do that. But yeah, definitely during high school, there's difficult seasons because the people I was closest with were all, from my high school. And when I really began to feel the conviction of, man, I'm hanging out with the wrong people, the wrong influence, where I'm at on Friday nights is not helping me be closer to Jesus. And I had to do some course correction there for sure. But, I just tried to be my best to be faithful to God, and He blessed me for that and led me to where I am now. But yeah, it was definitely difficult, but making that decision and realizing how important my choices were made it easier for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking. This
Yeah.
conversation was
Yeah.
beneficial. I
Yeah,
got some
yeah.
out
Yeah, it
of
was great getting to know
That's
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we have Easter services coming up. Good Friday
Yay.
services at 6 or 7?
At 6 o'clock, yeah.
7.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock.
7.
And then we have same times for all the other ones,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So go to Easter service. It'll be great. And don't only go to Easter service. Go to the services before that and after that.
Bring a friend.
Yeah, bring a friend.
Bring your family.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All of
And
them.
then Wednesdays, youth
Yeah.
appreciation. Wait, do we have a combined night coming up?
We do not this Wednesday. Actually, I don't know when this is going to air. I don't know when this is going to air, but it's on the 16th is the combined night.
16th combined night at
Rose.
Oh,
at
lit.
Rose.
Yeah, at Rose.
Legitness. Well, it was great having this and having you guys with us. I hope you enjoyed
Yes.
the pod. We will see you next time. Bye.